Hi guys, Zach here. In this video I'm going to be going through some of my tips for Red Alert Quickmatch. This is an update from my video which was posted 7 months ago. The reason I'm posting a new video on this is because the way I play now is very different from the way I played then, and also some of the maps have changed since then. In this video I'm going to be playing the Soviets, and as in the title I'm ranked in the top 200 when this video was made. The first match I'm playing is on the map Canyon. It's one of the smaller maps in Quickmatch, and the tactics I'm going to use are a heavy tank rush. There are a couple of other ways you can play this map. You can build across the middle into the enemy's base and build flamethrowers to destroy the infantry and buildings. You can also go for the economic route, where you focus a bit more on building an extra ore refinery and ore trucks, which can be beneficial if it turns out to be a longer game. The reason I go for the heavy tank rush is just that I've had more success using that tactic than others. One of the most important things in any RTS game is speed, and Red Alert is no different. So really what you should do as much as possible is use hotkeys. Sometimes I still occasionally use point and click for some things, but primarily I do try and use hotkeys as much as possible. Now I did make a couple of changes to the default hotkeys. I use V for ore refinery and B for ore silo. This is just my preference, but I find it easier if the keys I use most often for buildings are closer together on the keyboard. In this match I'm going to build 2 war factories early on. The reason for this is because as you build more war factories, it increases the speed at which you build your tanks. You also need to make sure you have enough power plants, because if you don't have enough power that can also slow down your unit building speed. It's really important to use your infantry to scout the map early on. This allows you to see as much as possible what your enemy is doing, so you're not surprised by any sudden attacks. Early infantry attacks can be very common on small maps, and I'm now going to sell a construction yard. This is just so I have a bit more money, so I can build more heavy tanks.
Ready and waiting. Acknowledged. At once. Agreed.
Right, now it looks like I'm about ready, so I'm going to take my tanks and go to my opponent's base now. You do have to be quite careful on this map, because there are a lot of narrow corridors and your tanks can go a bit off track if you're not careful. And as you can see, the opponents had the same tactics as me. They're taking quite a long route round to my base, so that should give me a little bit of a head start in destroying their buildings. The worst thing I could do right now is just to go back to my base with my tanks and try and defend, because by the time I'd got there they would have destroyed half of my base, and it would have given them a bit more time to build more tanks to defend their base. I think this just goes to show really how important speed is, because the person, if I built a bit more slow and set off a bit later, then I probably would have lost this match. In that match I was playing a player ranked around 300. The next match is on the map Bullseye, and I'm playing a player ranked in the top 250. Now I'm going to go through a bit about build order, and this is going to change depending on the map, because on some maps I collect just ore, on some maps I collect a mixture of ore and gems, and then there's other maps where at the start I will just be collecting gems. I will put the build orders in the description. The build order starts the same for any map. It starts off as construction yard, power plant, barracks. As you can see on this map, I've built an extra power plant. That's because I want to place my ore refinery as close to the ore as possible. Alternatively, what you can do is you can move your construction yard a little bit at the start and then just build 1 power plant and barracks, and there you can see I've deployed my ore refinery right next to the ore. Now this is where it's going to start to change for different maps. On this map, because I'm just collecting ore, after building my first war factory, I'm going to build my second ore refinery before I build my second war factory. This is because you need to take a more economic approach when you're just collecting ore, else you're going to run out quite early on. And the units I'm going to build are, I'm going to start off with building 2 ore trucks, and then I'm going to build heavy tanks after that. Now this was quite a poor game by me because I forgot to set my war factory building my ore trucks and heavy tanks straight away. Now what you can see I'm doing with my ore truck is I'm showing it where to mine the ore, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to clear a space out below to place my second ore refinery. It does make quite a big difference to how quickly you can collect ore. So you can see when I try and build it, I'll try and place it in that position. I've done quite a poor job there, so I'm going to need to just clear a couple of ore things, and there I've realised that I'd actually forgot to set the war factory building things, so that's quite bad play by me there. Now one of the things you have to be very careful of on this map is early infantry attacks. Quite often what enemies will do is they will come from behind and go for your construction yard. So it's very important to scout early on so you can see if the enemy is going to rush you. And you can also see how I've spread out my infantry at each end of my base. This is just to make sure my enemy can't see what's going on inside my base, because the more information they have, they can use that to decide whether they want to attack or not. I've now completed building my 2 ore trucks, so now I'm going to be building tanks. I'm also building across here with a power plant and another ore silo, and I'm going to build another ore refinery to collect the ore on the other side of my base. And now it's just a waiting game. You can see my enemies collecting tanks in the middle. Sometimes people like to collect the units in the middle so they can respond to different things the enemy does, because it's quite easy to move to any part of the map from the middle. Some of the different tactics you may see players use is some like to move their MCV to the middle early on. This is so they can mine the gems, which can allow them to build tanks a lot more quickly. That's one of the reasons why it's so important to use the infantry to scout early on. Another tactic is that some players will build engineers, and they'll build a shipyard and they'll transport the engineers next to your construction yard and take it. Now if the player's good, what they'll also do at the same time is they'll build a Tesla coil, which they'll then place in your base to destroy your power plants and anything else that's close by.
Unit ready. Building. On hold.
Yeah, now it looks like we're going to be making our move soon.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
I'm hoping they'll just stay there, but yeah, he has an eye on them. I hope they don't come from the other side.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
So I'm just moving my tanks to defend.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Waiting order.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building.
It doesn't actually look like my opponent has that many, a great deal number of tanks.
Affirmative.
Yeah, I can see he's got them in that left middle part of the map.
Waiting acknowledged.
So what I'll do if he's just keeping them there is I might just go down to his base.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
He's took quite a long route, so I might actually get to his base before he gets to mine.
Our base is under
Affirmative.
attack.
Acknowledged.
And not, well, almost.
Affirmative.
Unit ready.
He did seem to have fewer tanks than me, so hopefully I will be able to destroy his base more quickly.
Unit ready.
Even though I did have a poor start, now he's got a heavy power plant, which probably means that he's going to have a Tesla coil. And that's why he has so few tanks, because he spent his money building Tesla coils instead, which aren't always that effective if you've got, unless you're fighting with tanks as well. So he's got another big power plant there, and there's his construction yard. Judging by the number of power plants, he's probably got extra Tesla coils in the base, but he'll need power to use them. And it looks like I'm going to win this.
Mission accomplished.
This match is on the map Path Beyond, and I'm playing a player ranked in the top 100.
Construction complete.
On this map, I'm going to be mining gems and ore early on, which means my build order is going to be slightly different. After building my first ore refinery, I'm going to build 2 war factories, so I can build my units more quickly early on. My unit order is going to stay the same. I'm going to build 2 ore trucks before building tanks. Now, one important aspect on certain maps is expansion. This is especially important on this map if you start in the bottom right, where my opponent is starting, and also for maps like Arena Valley Extreme. It's just what tends to happen on some maps is you tend to run out of ore in some places, and if you don't expand, then you will run into trouble later on. From my position, it's a bit hard to expand, but if the match goes on long enough, I will want to expand to the right. What's very important though is that I mine the gems early on. There are 2 patches of gems which I'll want to use. You'll see the one I've just uncovered to the right there, and there's also one to the left of the ore refinery.
Yes, sir.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to send my first ore truck to the ones on the right, and I'm going to send my second ore truck I build to collect the ones on the left. And I'm going to place my war factory close to them, so it's just going to automatically go to those gems. Now what you'll have noticed is I sent my ore truck individually to collect the gems from the ore field to the right instead of just going straight for the small patch of gems. This is just because it's closer to my ore refinery, so it'll allow me to build a bit more quickly early on, because you can run out of money. And again, I'm going to need to send infantry to scout the area around my base. So there's my second war factory.
Low power.
Yeah, I'm going to need to build another power plant. And then my second ore refinery is going to go at the bottom there. I'm going to mine the ore from there.
Primary building selected.
Unit
ready.
And there's my new ore truck. What I'm going to do with this ore truck is I'm going to take it down to this
Yes, sir.
ore at the south, and I'm going to mine the gems from that ore field first.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
And I'm actually going to align it with the new ore refinery I built.
Funds. Unit ready. Building. Construction complete. Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, that'll give me a bit of a boost in funds.
Unit
And I'll
ready.
just have those ore trucks mining the ore.
Yes, sir. Very well. Affirmative.
Now I'm taking my tanks to the right of the base,
Building.
because that's most of the attacks come from there.
Primary building selected.
You very rarely get attacks
Unit
coming
ready.
from the other side.
Building. On hold. Cancel.
Reporting
Building.
read.
Although some players will do it just to throw you off.
Yes, sir. At once.
And you can see
Unit
my
ready.
opponent is using
Building.
the gem fields effectively as well.
Ready and
You saw
waiting.
his ore truck there.
Unit ready.
Agreed.
Building.
And yeah, he's been on the lookout. You can see he's sending his tanks up, protecting his ore
Unit
truck.
Yes, sir.
ready.
Very well.
Building. Unit ready. Building. Construction
Waiting
complete.
order. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Now what I'm going to do
Building.
is I'm going to build this
Yes, sir.
ore refinery here,
Affirmative.
but I'm going to send this ore truck
Acknowledged.
down to collect the gem,
Waiting orders.
gem island
Ready.
at the bottom.
Affirmative.
Building.
At once. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready.
At once.
Building.
And I'm also going to build a
At once.
third war factory, which I only possibly do on
Unit
this
ready.
map
Affirmative.
and
Building.
Arena Valley Extreme. Because usually you don't collect enough ore on most
Unit
maps
ready.
to warrant a third
Reporting.
war
Very well.
factory.
Affirmative. Agreed.
Unit ready. Building.
Agreed. Very well.
Construction complete.
But as you can
At
see,
once.
my
Very
orders
well.
are a bit
Unit
plentiful.
Very well.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
So it will give me a bit of a
Unit
boost.
ready.
The way the
Building.
speed
At
increases
once.
is if you build
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
2 war factories, your speed,
Yes, sir.
your building
Unit ready.
speed halves. So I think it's
Building. Unit ready.
24 seconds if you only have
Building.
1 war factory to build a heavy
Ready and
tank.
agreed.
Then it goes to 12
Unit
seconds
ready.
if you have 2 war factories,
Building.
so the building speed doubles. But
Unit
then after
ready.
that you don't get as big
Building.
increases. you get a 4-second. I think you get a 4-second increase from building a third war factory, so it'll be 8 seconds instead of 12 seconds.
Very well.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Ready.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Acknowledge.
Ready.
Acknowledge.
Building.
Acknowledge.
Unit lost.
And one important thing to try and do as much as possible when you're in tank battles is to click and move.
Building.
We haven't actually seen many tank battles in there through these games, but
Unit
yeah, if you just stand there with your tanks, they take much more damage when they're still. When they're moving, they take a lot less damage. So as much as you can, you try and shoot and move,
Unit lost.
and it is definitely the best way to.
Low power.
Acknowledged.
And yeah, just take them back and
Acknowledged.
just regroup them.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Building. Silos.
There's a little mistake there.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yeah, but when your tanks are stood still, also look for tanks which are stationary when trying to fire, because those tanks will take a lot more damage than the ones that are on the move.
Lost.
Affirmative. Ready and waiting. Affirmative. With orders.
Unit lost. Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Now you can see I'm on the losing end of this match.
Acknowledged.
When I looked over the highlight in the replay, it was not so much that I had less tanks, it was the fact that the other player just moved better than me. It was better at moving than I did.
Building.
So you can see it's a bit inevitable now. He's destroyed my outfits on that side, and he's just going to go through my base.
Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Our base is under
Acknowledged.
attack. Building. Unit lost.
Yeah, he's just a bit better at the way he uses his tanks than I am. I think I've only beaten him in the past a couple of times.
Acknowledged.
This is my final match, and it's on the map Tournament or Rift.
Affirmative.
And what I'm doing is I'm moving my MCV to the middle to build my construction yard. And the reason I'm doing this is because in the middle there's an ore field with lots of gems in.
Options. Building.
Now, some people go to the middle, some people stay at their end. It depends.
Building.
But because I'm going to the field with gems in, and I'm going to be mining exclusively gems at the start, that's going to change the order I build things in.
Training.
Acknowledged.
I'm going to build, my building order is going to be the same as last time. It's going to be 2 war factories before my second ore refinery.
Unit ready.
But my unit order is going to change.
Unit ready.
I'm not going to build any ore trucks at the start, I'm just going to build heavy tanks.
Report agreed. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Now, using the infantry at the start on this map is very important. If possible, you don't want your enemy to know that you're in the middle.
New construction.
They got quite close to my base, so I think they probably do know, which is unfortunate.
At once. Yes, sir. At once.
And as you can see, I'm going to send my ore truck to collect the gems.
Yes, sir. Reporting. At once.
I'm going to spread my infantry into a nice long line, and then I'm going to try and push some of them a bit forward so I can see when my enemy's coming. I'll also uncover the ore field to the bottom left.
Affirmative. Reporting. Very well. Report affirmative.
And my first war factory is nearly done, and what you'll see is that after I built my war factory, I'll start building heavy tanks straight away.
Building. On hold. Cancel.
Yes, affirmative. Reporting. Very well.
Yes, you need to be careful with your ore truck, and there's the enemy's base.
Agreed.
It seems like
Reporting. At once.
they're built upwards.
Ready and waiting.
Yeah, you need to make sure your ore trucks keeps on mining the gems and doesn't start doing mining the ore.
Yes, sir. Awaiting order. Agreed. Yes, sir. At once. Reporting.
Unit
Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Right, and you can see my enemies attacking me really early on.
Low power.
Reporting. Well.
So I think they're going for my construction yard.
At once.
Building.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Unit
Yes, sir. Very
ready.
well.
Building.
Very well. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Just trying to build a flamethrower.
Ready and wait. Affirmative. Agreed.
Just some air protection.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very well. Agreed.
And now they're going to go for, yeah, they'll probably get that actually.
Good report. Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Got to
Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Unit lost. Building.
I don't think they'll get that though because
Unit ready.
a construction yard, they've lost too many tanks.
Building.
Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Construction
Acknowledge.
complete.
Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Unable to comply.
Yes, sir.
Building in progress.
Vehicle reporting. Report acknowledged. Affirmative.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Yeah, it might have been a
Acknowledged.
mistake for my enemy to attack me early on because what's happened now is they've lost 4 tanks,
Yes, sir.
so they have a lot fewer tanks than I do, even though they've destroyed 1 war factory. And now it's time for me to launch a counter-attack.
Base is under attack.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
And as you can see, they have very little defending the base,
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
which is very problematic for them.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
As you could see when I left their base, they only had a 1 tank left and they had a few infantry. So that means that I'm going to be able to destroy their buildings much faster than they are.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
And really, they should be sending those tanks over to help destroy the buildings. You can see they've got my construction yard.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Lost.
Acknowledged.
Yeah, it's always you always need to be careful of the counter-attack. You always need to make sure if you do an early attack that you do enough damage to make it worthwhile. Yeah, and that's the end of my tips video. I hope you found it helpful, and thank you for watching.
Attack.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost. Mission accomplished.